Good evening, everybody. Yes, we'll bring it on or bring on the juices. What my hat is, I don't know what it is, but all I know it's got a microphone on it, and we have one here. Hello, everybody. My name is Scott Morgan, off the Motor City Madmouth. You have a great crew tonight. Going to be more of a nostalgic night of sorts, and there might be an interesting parting shot or two because I know my guys and gal will have one. Anyway, glad to be back to crew. I'll introduce them real quick. We'll get into the topics. The headline tonight is paying tribute to Gene Hackman and Al Trautwig. JB, I know you'll probably know a lot about Al Trautwig, don't you?
A little bit.
Okay. Well, don't worry. You'll get an education tonight about the guy. George and I certainly know about him. So anyway, Penzman's on the right side of me. Welcome back, Penz.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, and Candy.
Great to be on the Sports Exchange, this long time running show that you and George established years ago.
And JB Ellis, I don't know how I'm going to contact you when you're in Tokyo, but I think you're going to be seeing some Japanese baseball next week, aren't you?
Week and a half, 2 weeks actually is the game, but I'll be gone as of Sunday. Going to be exciting. Get to see some Major League Baseball in another country. Haven't done that.
Looking forward to reading. Looking forward to you writing a story too on this. I want to see how far your writings come along, and you have a golden opportunity to go out there and put some good stuff together. I'm looking forward to seeing what you put together. Also, just so everybody know, I'm working on, I don't have it secured yet, on landing longtime MLB Hall of Fame writer Barry Bloom. So I've known Barry a long time. We're in conversation. Nothing's finalized, but I've known Barry a long time. George, I know you know him. Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you. Good to be back with everyone tonight. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Barry's ticketed for the Motor City Madmouth show. Let's get to the agenda. Remembering Gene Hackman, dead at the age of 95. His death remains a little bit of a mystery. I'm not going to get into specifics there. I know there's a lot of investigative stuff going on. But I'll tell you, I'm going to lead off with this one. First of all, I'll always know him for Hoosiers. And some of his favorite lines for me, and everybody have an opportunity to say theirs. Let's see what hand I've been dealt. And he also has a comment that when it comes down to this basketball team, what I say is the law, absolutely and without discussion. If you're a business owner, how many times have you used that and what hand have I been dealt? You know what, Mr. Ellis? You're a business owner, right? What do you think? What I say when it comes to this basketball team is the law, absolutely and without discussion, what hand have I been dealt? Mr. Ellis, you got to lead off on this one.
Listen, one of the greatest actors of all time, and Hoosiers, definitely one of the best basketball movies of all time. Definitely will be missed. A shame that, whatever happened. Either way, he's not here anymore, and it's definitely a loss for all of us that are fans of his great work.
Age 95, I say he had a pretty good run. What about you, George?
Yeah, Hoosier was, I'll take it a step further, JB. I'll say it's one of the best sports movies of all time. But you know what? The one role that I loved from Gene Hackman, Popeye Doyle in French Connection. I was only a teen back then, and I remember seeing that movie, and I was so impressed with his acting as the New York City cop who ended up going to France. And, well, you guys probably know the rest of the story, a lot of drugs and stuff, but a great guy, though. Yeah, we're going to miss him.
Yeah, Ralph Williams, good comment out there. Good to have you on, Ralph. The firm, Unforgiven, Hoosiers, replacements. Yeah, I forgot about the replacements. Good stuff, Ralph. Glad to bring that up. All right, Candy, what do you think about Gene Hackman? You see how many times we watch Hoosiers. Glad to bring those up, Ralph.
Gene Hackman was an American actor in the career that spanned over 5 decades. He received 2 Academy Awards, 2 British Academy Film Awards, and 4 Golden Globe Awards. Obviously, yes, I know him for Hoosiers. I mean, we even went to see Hoosiers Gym after the fact because we really loved that movie. But, I mean, he's been in so many. He was in Unforgiven. He was in Bonnie and Clyde back in 1967. He was in Mississippi Burning. He was in The Poseidon Adventure. I mean, you name it. Hoosiers, Power, Another Woman, The Quick and the Dead, Get Shorty, The Birdcage, Enemy of the State, Run. He also acted in Crimson Tide with Denzel Washington. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, there is a whole plethora of. It's sad that when we get to this, I mean, and I hate to say this, but I'm going to age us, that we talk more about all these great people that we see that are passing. He was a great actor. Loved him in Hoosiers. Loved that movie, but so sad to hear about his passing.
All right, go to the chat room. John Thede, great friend of ours, mine and George's. And
Hi, John.
So he talks about Crimson Tide. Let me give you a special story about John Thede for all of you that don't know about him. George, why don't you talk about his incredible work as a firefighter and how he went out there and saved the life of, was it young Cecilia Sheehan, and now he's been a member of Detroit Sports Broadcasters as well. Glad to have you on, John. This is a great show for you to be on. Well, John Thede, JB, is a truly big. He's a big hero, and he's been a part of the Detroit media for a long time. And he's a great friend of ours.
Has. Yeah,
there was a deadly plane crash right near the airport, and John to me is just he's a hero in a lot of eyes. Maybe one of these days,
absolutely.
Joe, we'll bring him on the show, and you can get to meet him personally. So, John, glad to be on, and thanks for bringing up those shows. All right, Penguin, some thoughts.
Well, John ruined it for me. I was going to say he really did good at Crimson Tide, and Ralph was going to he ruined it for me, and I say he was really good at replacements, because what he did replacements was phenomenal. He did an excellent job. But whatever happened, it's sad. Gene Hackman was an awesome actor, and his wife and his dog, that's a shame too. But I don't know. I just feel bad for him. So that's my take.
So for you Tigers fans, John Thede will be in Lakeland next week with the show. Great stuff. All right. Onwards we go. Onwards we go. We get to talk about the Lakers tonight, but here's the thing. It's Dale Lambier talking about them. So get this. Let's talk about LeBron James first of all. First player to reach 50,000 points in the regular season and the playoffs. But get this. This is why I brought it on here. Bill Lambier believes that LeBron James would be best if he played in the 1980s. He's 6'8", runs 260, runs like the wind, jumps out of a gym. Smart. MJ was a tremendous guard, but 6'8", 280. I don't know about this one, but you know what, Joe? What are your thoughts about Mr. Lambier?
LeBron with the 50,000 points? Or I lose you?
Yeah, talking about...
Yeah, LeBron James is 50,000 points in the regular season and the playoffs combined. Bill Lambier is saying that he can play in the 80s. Do you agree or disagree with that?
Of course not. I mean, he cries every time he's touched. He flops. You know, he could imagine him against the bad boys in Detroit. What would he do? He quit basketball after his rookie year if he had to go up against that team with Mahorn and Lambier and. You know, I mean, listen, it's one thing when you're not playing anymore to say nice things about the current stars. You know, I appreciate that rather than the people saying that they couldn't play against them. You know, it's a tough situation because you can't really ever compare generations because we don't know. It'll never happen. There's no way to, you can simulate it or whatever you want, but it's not real. But I mean, looking at LeBron's game, imagine him inside against Charles Oakley or Anthony Mason, Dennis Rodman, any of those guys. Mahorn, Lambier. Yeah, he's not going to be able to play against any of those guys. He'd be crying.
Patrick Ewing, Karl Malone.
And great point, Joe. Let me tell you a little something about Bill Lambier. Him and I never really particularly got along. Then again, he didn't get along with anybody. So I'm at the Boston Garden, and I'm interviewing Dennis Rodman, and Bill's getting on my nerves. So, Dennis said, Bill, get off his back. I end up telling Bill, just because you can afford your car payment doesn't mean that I can afford mine. And that's when Rodman went after him, said, get out of here, Bill. And then Bill moved. I mean, he didn't want no part of me at that point. I said, think about it. You can afford a car payment and I can't, so beat it. That's in the Boston Garden. Number one, he did some great work in the WNBA, but he alienated so many cotton-picking people that the only thing that he sniffed in the NBA was an assistant job with Kurt Rambis, who he played against with the Lakers, and he never got a job in the NBA. Wonder why? Because he burned so many stinking bridges. Really? Seriously? Really? That's a new hat, by the way, coming out, by the way. And I have another one called Seriously? Really? Seriously? I'm telling you, I have a different hat tonight, but I have all kinds of different hats. Bill Laimbeer, don't hold your breath. JBL has said my point for me. I don't think I'm going to lose my voice here. He wouldn't have been able. He would have to have some real dental work if Rick Mahorn hammered him. Charles Oakley was a physical character, and Anthony Mason, seriously, really, seriously? I'm telling you, this guy would have gotten his brains. He would have gotten every call. In fact, I'll even go a step further, okay? He has 50,000 points. I don't give him 35,000 combined in that era. No way. He'd get killed.
Hi, Josh.
Acknowledging everybody in the chat room, but I'm telling you, this is the one topic I was passionate to bring on. Of course, Eichhorn being on the show pretty much helped because he lived it with me with the bad boys. You think, really, George? I'm going to ask you, my friend. Do you really think that LeBron James could survive in the bad boys era when the NBA was legitimate and that it was good basketball called defense? Come on, we lived it.
No, I do not think so. He would not have anywhere near these numbers back then. Plus, there's been expansion upon expansion. There's new teams. He cleaned up on a lot of bad basketball teams. I'm not taking anything away from the guy. Jeez, he's 40 years old, but still, no, he could not. You see what the Pistons back then, gave fits to Michael Jordan, but before he started blossoming into his own. But the fact of the matter is that I think Laimbeer's right on with this one. And take it from a guy like Laimbeer. He's got to be the one throwing cold water on somebody like this. Typical Bill Laimbeer, Scott. He gets his 2 cents in now. He's questioning something that everybody's going gaga over, and he's got the right to do it. But like you said, it's a great achievement. But no, in that era, he would not have had this kind of phenomenal success. No way.
First of all, Bill Laimbeer is absolutely bored. All he's waiting for now is for Tom Gores to get the Detroit Shock to play back at Little Caesars Arena. That's all he's doing, and I think that's inevitable at some point. Cleveland got it first, but the Detroit Shock will be back in Detroit at some point. But Bill Laimbeer, you are absolutely delirious. Really? Seriously? Really? Give me a break. I never liked you anyways, and I'm sure there's no love lost between Dan Marino and Bill Laimbeer, two of the people I can't stomach the most. And if I want to put another one in there, although I've never met him, Deion Sanders, but I'm actually liking on him a little bit more because of the job he's done in college football. But Bill Laimbeer, I know you're bored. Okay, the Las Vegas Aces moved on from you because they got Becky Hammond. But really? Seriously? Really? There you go, Josh Woodward. He's got it right. He's got a cap in the mail for that one, too, because it was his idea in the first place to get one. So, with all due respect, Bill Laimbeer, I don't know where you're drinking this Kool-Aid, and I don't think that LeBron would have made it. I'm sure you would have taken every stupid, cheap shot at him anyway, and now you're telling me he would have made it in the 80s. You are absolutely, without a doubt, delusional. All right, Candy, go ahead. See if you can somewhat calm me down, because I knew this topic was going to light me up.
So, you have to give kudos to LeBron James. He was already the first all time in combined points. Let's face it, the next nearest person to him is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is second with 44,149, while the closest active player is Kevin Durant with 35,225 points. James is also the NBA's all-time scoring leader in both the regular season and playoffs with 41,871 and 8,162 respectively. The other thing is James already passed 50,000 points when counting his play-in tournament and the NBA Cup points, but the league does not recognize those stats. So those points don't count towards this 50,000 that he has already. But would he have been able to play in the 80s? Absolutely not. He does not tough. Just doesn't. No.
All LeBron James doesn't make PR mistakes like Stephen A. Smith talked about. And I'm going to tell you something. I'll take Irvin Magic Johnson all day long over LeBron James. Continue your thought, though, Andy.
I was just going to say, give LeBron credit in this day and age. He's doing phenomenal. He's obviously scoring points, and you can't take that away from him. And like JB said, you cannot compare him to anybody from the 80s or the 70s because it's a different game and it's totally changed. Is he good for basketball? he has a lot of basketball talent, and I don't think any one of us on this panel would say he doesn't. Do we like him as a player? That's completely a different question. But he obviously to get 50,000 points in a league, he has to be doing something right.
He's a heck of a player. I'm not saying he's not a great player, but the bottom line is they don't play defense. Defense in the NBA is called a foreign language. And I can tell you, if anybody that knows me, I hate foreign languages, which is why I always went back to wood shop and metal shop, whatever shop you could get. In fact, I was so desperate to get out of a foreign language class, I even tried to take auto shop and didn't do that great, or small engines is what they called it back. But I wasn't about foreign language, okay? Here's the thing. LeBron James did not take the NBA out of tape delay. It was Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. He's lucky. So, sorry, Bill, I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid. The only reason why you even made any money is because of Irvin Magic Johnson. And with all due respect, LeBron James is a heck of a talent, but Stephen A. Smith has said this guy's a public relations nightmare. He needs to get his PR straight. Anybody that could go out there and put on a TV show called The Decision, oh my goodness, that was bad as everything else. And then he didn't want to play in the most recent NBA All-Star game because he was hurt about an hour before. LeBron James, there's no way you're making it in the 80s. And no, as far as Bill Laimbeer is concerned, you know what? Joshua was talking about beers. Maybe I'll give you a little lesson from Joshua. Maybe he should be drinking a few. And in Detroit, I think the biggest beer that I know, George, correct me if I'm wrong, is probably Stroh's beer. Is that still in business?
Stroh's beer is manufactured now in Milwaukee, I believe.
Stroh's is too? Well, it was
Yep.
in Michigan.
Yep, they folded from Detroit area. Yep, but they kept the name brand alive in Milwaukee, I think.
Well, they brew everything there anyways. All right,
Yeah.
you got the last word.
I am not from the 80s. I'm not from the 70s, so I'm going to transition some stuff. LeBron James would have made it in the 80s and 90s. When I was a kid, Patrick Ewing, Karl Malone, they would have easily stopped them. Gary Payton would have gotten the ball from them. It's just, I'm not taking anything away from 50,000. Good job of getting 50,000. But you're supposed to make a game-winning shot. A couple weeks ago, I saw highlights that LeBron had 2 chances of getting the game-tying shot, and he couldn't get it in twice. And they ended up going in overtime and ended up losing. But as far as that, the 80s and 90s, I don't think they would have survived with Karl Malone and Patrick Ewing. Patrick Ewing would have stood his ground. Even Mutombo would have blocked him.
Well, think about it. Isaiah Thomas would have given him a hard time, too, because Isaiah may have been a little guy, but he was a physical guy that had a lot of blood, but I'll tell you, he had a lot of hurt, too. Won't go on anymore, but we're out some good names. Well, we'll tone this conversation down a little with the NBA. This one isn't so, but I had to get Bill Laimbeer. But George and I on the show, we lived it with the bad boys.
Yeah, we sure did.
Chuck Daly. So now the most point by a Canadian guy in a single game is 55 by Jamal Murray of the Denver Nuggets versus the Portland Trailblazers. Yes, the Canadians can go out there and win the Four Nations tournament, but every now and then they do produce a pretty good basketball player. And Jamal Murray's as good as they get. George, since you're right across from Windsor, what are your thoughts about what Jamal Murray has done?
Well, I'm very proud of him. I mean, there's a lot to be said from sports stars coming in Canada coming from Canada, but rarely do we see a lot in the NBA. So I think Jamal's done a nice job. I'm happy for him. Denver's got a nice team out there, and I'm all for it. I mean, we all know that basketball is international, so makes more sense than anything right across my border, right across the border from the U.S., our friends in Canada, and they should be contributing. They have a team. They have a team in Toronto, of course. But, yeah, Jamal's doing a great job, and like I said, kudos to him, man. He's playing some good ball lately.
Hey, Joshua, I don't remember who the beer guy is, so I can't give you an answer to that particular question.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you bringing it up. But Bill Laimbeer, if you ever see him, don't hesitate to send him a few beers. I could send him a lot of other things, but it doesn't matter. Who knows where day we'll ever cross. So, all right, JB, what are your thoughts about Jamal Murray?
Jamal Murray's throughout his career has been really good. I mean, he's a fun guy to watch. Plays a great game. When he got injured last year, part of the reason why Denver just wasn't the same and they didn't have a chance to win.
Pensman.
He's good. He's doing awesome. I like what he does. He reminds me of a young Iverson when he was younger. Just explosive. Just needs to stay healthy, and him and Nurkic will be fine. And I think they can get some titles together.
Here's one of those things. Jamal Murray could play for any coach. Chuck, I can only imagine what he would have done like in Chuck Daly's system. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Scary thought, isn't it? Candy, some thoughts on this?
He's 27 years old. But this goes back to the last topic that we just talked about and how there is no defense played in the NBA. Because if there was a defense played in the NBA, you would not be seeing 55 points from one player.
Right.
You just wouldn't. I mean, that's crazy. But, it's the third most scored in a single game by a Nuggets player in their franchise history. He also that night had, what did they say? They said he had, I was trying to look for how many rebounds. He had 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals while hitting 7 threes in 42 minutes.
Wow.
Well, he plays for Michael Malone, and George and I know Brendan Malone real well. And I'll tell you, I have a great story about Brendan Malone. I really, really do. Brendan Malone and Brendan Sir and I were out in Cleveland in the Richfield area. And I ended up going to this place called Whitey's, which is a sports bar. I'll never forget what Mike Abenauer says when I was at the Pistons Hotel. Just so you know, you're not a part of the team. Great to know. I knew that. Okay. So meanwhile, what happens? Brendan Malone and Brendan Sir asked me for a ride, and we went to Whitey's. Man. Brendan Malone looks at me. He calls me Scotty because he did. Yeah, if you like me, you call me Scotty. If you don't like me, call me whatever you want. I have actually taken on Iceland as one of my new nicknames because I have ice in my veins. My wife knows about the trick. But anyways, both of those two guys saw me going into a corner spot. They said, it's like they look at eyes because they see it on the NBA card. You guys get that, gal? So I pull into a corner spot. So Brendan Malone asked, why did you go after that? Here you go, Brendan's. Okay, well then, because I had 2 of them, at least I know one side of my car is not going to get hit. And these guys just broke out and started smiling and laughing. It was just unbelievable. And then I asked them in the restaurant, "You guys mind if I sit here and eat dinner with you?" "No, not at all. You're welcome to sit here with us. I won't talk. I know you're scouting." No. They said, "We can talk basketball with you. We'll talk." But they learned a lesson how to park their car on that particular night. They really did. It was just fun. I mean, working back with the Pistons, back in the Bad Boys is something I take a lot of pride in. I have thanks to Bill Wickett, who's now, I believe, with the Nashville Predators. George probably has one too. He has a little piece of the floor on his wall somewhere.
Yeah.
I probably look at that knowing those are some great times to cover NBA basketball. I haven't been to a NBA basketball game in a while. I'm not really in any hurry to do it, but it was still some unbelievable time. But I'll tell you what, it's also important to do now. I'll turn over to Candy Embley for a station break. Go ahead, Ken.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book. It's called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. The foreword is written by George Eichhorn. Talks about Scott's 40-plus years in the media business and how it has evolved. If you want a copy, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there's a plethora of great writings, some good pictures too, I'd say, and a link to our merchandise store as well. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Monday nights, we talk baseball. Tuesday nights, we talk football. Wednesday and Thursday nights, just never know what we're going to be talking about. Thursday nights, we sprinkle in a little NHL, though, as well. So tune in to find out what we're talking about tomorrow night. If you see the red subscribe button, hit it, like us, share us with all your friends and family. If you want to advertise, call Scott, 954-304-4941. And if you want to be a guest on the show, email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Thanks, Scott.
You're welcome. Cyberuski, good stuff. Yeah, Scotty Slapper, kind of wearing on me after a while. I don't mind it. Sometimes you're wearing it. My wife, when she met me, called me crazy man, and it definitely has worked. But the only thing we haven't done with that is I haven't gotten I think I do have a domain name for it, and I haven't gotten a hat, but I'm not getting that. I got the seriously really thing down pat. So with that said, let's continue on. A guy that unfortunately passed away, so I have a title on him too, is Al Trautwig, the former play-by-play announcer, passed away at the age of 68 from cancer. He was called New York Rangers games, the Knicks, and also worked for the USA Network, 30 years at MSG, and also, you talk about NHL Olympic coverage. Here's another iconic guy. Al Trautwig was a guy that I ended up finally learning about when I was watching the NHL on the USA Cable Network, and he was commonly doing those pregame shows with Gary Green, the announcer, and Dan Kelly Sr. And I'm going to tell you something. Al Trautwig, to me, is a guy that if you're patterning yourself around in the metropolitan New York area, has produced some iconic broadcasters. I just think that probably Al Trautwig may be one of the most underrated broadcasters out there because they've had so many great ones through the years. I'm not going to go out there and get into all of them. I want to make sure that the focus remains on Al Trautwig, although I will mention Kenny Albert, who was on the Motor City Mad Mouse show last year. Al Trautwig, all I can say, my friend, is rest in peace. And being a national guy like I am, you did some unbelievable work. And this society is better because of guys like Al Trautwig. All right, Joe, you lived in the metropolitan New York area. What's your best recollection of Al Trautwig?
So in the year, I believe it was 94, the Rangers won their Stanley Cup and the Knicks got all the way to the finals. OJ was getting chased to the Bronco. There was a lot going on. And, Al Trautwig was always a staple at MSG. He, classy guy, did a great job talking sports. He had the heartbeat of New York. I mean, you look at who MSG had at that point. They had Marv Albert do a play-by-play. Walt Frazier do a color commentary, if I remember correctly. Al Trautwig, who was one of the best. Sam Rosen doing Rangers games. They always had really top-notch people. And Trautwig, I thought he was a lot older when I heard he passed. I was very surprised to hear that he was only in his 60s. But knowledgeable guy, always seemed like he knew what he was talking about. I enjoyed watching him growing up.
Yeah, exactly. I enjoyed him. He was nothing but class. And the way he carried himself. Listen, this guy was with MSG for 30 years. And I got to know him on the USA Cable Network, Dan Kelly Sr. If anybody knows anything about legendary hockey announcers, you can come up with all the ones you want. But Dan Kelly Sr. died way too early. And that's where I first got my notice. Took notice of Al Trautwig. Rest in peace, Al. Turn over another veteran, George Eichhorn. Go ahead. What are your thoughts about Al?
Well, he's obviously synonymous with successful broadcasting. He was so versatile. When he got a call to do the Olympics, when he got a call to do Wide World of Sports, or whatever event he was at. I know his primary focus was hockey, but boy, this guy could do them all. I was too very disappointed when I heard the news he was still only in his 60s. But I'll tell you what, he showed how much love he has for the game of hockey and how much he admired the players themselves and the coaches that he interviewed. I have nothing but good words for him. I mean, some people link him just to the Olympics and all that. Well, they don't know the whole story. Yeah, he did the Olympics. Of course he did. But he really, really, like you said, Joe, with the Rangers and that, he became synonymous with respect. And they had so many great announcers in New York. And the Alberts, of course, Marv Albert is right up there too. But yeah, I'm going to miss him. I'm going to miss him, not only for the networks, for MSG, and he worked for NBC a lot. He's a great guy, great sports broadcaster.
All right, because I know it's probably a little bit before your time, but anything you can add would certainly be okay.
He covered the Indy 500. He did the Yankees, and he did tennis too. When you're watching the hockey game, it was Penguins and Rangers. As me as a Penguins fan, he made you feel like you're at the game, like Mike Lang would for the Penguins. He made you feel like you're at a Penguins game. But when he at the Rangers game, he made you feel like you're at the Rangers game there too at Madison Square Garden. So I just want to point that out too, that he covered the Indy 500 and tennis too.
Good stuff. I told you anything you provide at the table, Penguins always appreciate it. Candy, here you go. You're the one who does all the research.
Left? Anything left, guys? I'm just kidding.
Well, I don't know. Well, anytime I'm dealing with the researcher at the end, you always like to be the last. So go ahead. You'll fill in all the blanks anyway, since you're a crack researcher.
The 2000 New York Sportscaster of the Year, Trautwig covered 8 Olympic Games and won New York Sports Emmys for his coverage of the Yankees, Knicks, and Rangers. He also, hosted football, NHL. He did the Indianapolis 500 with Jim McKay. He also co-anchored coverage of the Tour de France, the Olympics, NBC's coverage of the Arena Football League. He also did U.S. Open tennis. He had a cameo in the movie Cool Runnings as an announcer for the bobsled competition. He did, in 2000, he replaced John Tesh as play-by-play announcer of the U.S. national and international gymnastics competitions for NBC. He also did, he did lots of other things. He was in the 2016 Rio Olympics, and there was some controversy along that lines and stuff like that. And that was when he was permanently then removed from gymnastics commentary. But what a career, some iconic teams too in there. Those aren't small, like your New York. That's a big market. So to be there that long and have that long of a career, kudos to him.
Can I say that's why he's appropriate for the show? And that's one of the reasons why I held on this with JB Ellis, because I know that being in the metropolitan New York area, you had a chance to see him an awful lot. Yes, Ralph Williams are broadcasting icons for sure. All right, great feel-good story out of Ann Arbor. Vlad Goldin proposed to his girlfriend, and after Michigan's loss to Michigan State, I saw him play over at FAU under Dusty May. Vlad Goldin to me is definitely going to be is an easy first-round pick in the NBA draft. And to be able to propose to his girlfriend, who, by the way, played volleyball at FAU, it's just unbelievable how she moved up to Michigan, and he gets to see him finish his career with the Michigan Wolverines. What an incredible story, Vlad. To me, it's been a privilege to be able to cover you when you're at FAU, and you were part of those great couple of years over with the Owls, and now to see you at Michigan is just unbelievable. I can only wish Vlad Goldin nothing but the best, and I'm looking forward to seeing where he goes in the NBA career. We'll go to our other Michigan resident, George Eichhorn. What are your thoughts about Vlad Goldin? You've only had a year there with him, but let's face it, the area has to be extremely excited about him.
Oh, yeah, the big fella. Yeah, Vlad's had a really good year. 29 games so far this season. He averages 6.4 rebounds. I was a little surprised. I thought it might be a little higher than that, but so he leads the Wolverines with 16 points a game as average, and he's just done a great job. I mean, he blocks. He's good from the field. He's got almost a 65% field goal average. Vlad Goldin, and I'll tell you what, and this goes back to what you said earlier, Scott, on previous shows I've been on with you about Dusty May and how fortunate Michigan is to have such a great coach like that to come in. And not only that, but like you said, Vlad came over, and I know a lot of other guys from the portal came to Michigan this year. Dusty's done a great job bringing all these guys together. But yeah, that was so cool because I guess I had heard that Vlad was talking about proposing to her in a different setting, not at the game itself, but something, I forget what they said. Something went awry where he was going to do it beforehand, not at the arena though, but in another setting. I can't remember what it is, but yeah, when he did it on the court, that was so cool. And it's funny because he knelt down and his head is almost even with her because of the height difference with his girlfriend, his fiance. She's shorter, and obviously he's this big guy, and he's just a real good guy. Yeah, I'm so happy that Dusty brought him in.
Well, Chrysler Center. Hey, listen, when I proposed to Candy, I told her I have knee issues. There's no way I'm getting on my knees. So what do? I take her to the Everglades. I go to a boat landing and ended up actually doing a Serene Sunday. Get this. I went to the boat landing and I said, here you go. Well, I proposed to her then. There's no way I'm getting on my knees because you're going to have to get me back up, and it's going to be one painful way up. So I go to the bottom of the boat landing. She's standing up there. It worked out pretty good. So Joshua Dorr, if you're still on the show tonight, Serene Sunday, that was one of the first places I actually did it. One of the first places. I don't remember the first place, but Serene Sunday, yeah, Chrysler Center. Ward Manuel had to bring this guy on board. He came from FAU, removed a couple of years away from a Final Four. If Ward Manuel didn't bring him on board, that a dunce cap was waiting for him, but Ward Manuel moved quickly because he knew he had a good coach. As a result, Michigan Wolverines going to the NCAA tournament. I know they lost tonight to Maryland, and I know they also lost to, what was it, Illinois on Sunday, and they get Michigan State to close it out. But I think the Michigan Wolverines could be very dangerous as they head into the NCAA tournament. And Vlad Goldin, watch out. This guy is one of those true big men that are going to transition to the NBA real well, whatever's left of it, if they don't find any other gimmick to get in. But Vlad Goldin may not be Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, but he'll be a great addition to the NBA, providing that this guy stays healthy. Some thoughts, Benjamin?
I think Michigan's going to be a Cinderella story in the March Madness with him. He's a really good basketball player. He's a really good NBA prospect. I know you guys are looking at Cooper Flagg from Duke, but keep an eye on this guy coming up. So just watch out, because this guy's going to be. He's not going to be like LeBron or anything, but he's going to be a contributor wherever team drafts him. So that's
Candy took a lot of photos of Vlad Gold. What do you think about what he's done with Michigan as well as FAU?
I think Vlad Goldin is a very talented player. We miss him down here at FAU, but I totally understand. The coach that brought him in, that was coaching him, left, and he went with them, and that's just the nature of NIL and the transfer portal these days. Is that happens, and you hear about that in a lot of the different sports. But kudos to him for having the success in a different school with different teammates around him. But kudos to him, and good luck in his marriage.
I actually thought that Johnell Davis was going to go with him, but he ends up going to Arkansas. I knew that Goldin was headed to Michigan, but Johnell Davis, I thought for sure they were a good 1-2 punch. But Dusty May went everywhere, and he can get anybody he wants. And it's good that Ward Manuel raised him $1 million, although Michigan has money to burn anyway. So, with that said, let's continue on to the Detroit theme, sort of. Matthew Stafford, he's back with the Rams on a 2-year deal. Was there any doubt, George Eichhorn, in your mind that Matthew Stafford was going to re-sign with the Rams, knowing that he was offered $100 million more to go to Las Vegas Raiders, no state income tax, but Matthew won a title there. I still think it's a win-win trade for both teams between the Rams and the Lions, but Matthew Stafford, are you surprised that he stayed in L.A.?
I'm not really surprised. I mean, the media kind of made it and whipped it up as a frenzy kind of thing, and rumors about him going to this team and that team, and that he would leave LA, and that Kelly was involved somehow, his wife, about being disgruntled or whatever with the Rams. But it was all smoke and mirrors when you think about it. I mean,
right.
It would be too much of a gamble, too much of a risk for the Rams to let him go. This, he's still in his prime. Maybe not totally in his prime anymore, but boy, he's still a damn good quarterback. He knows what he's doing. He's got so much experience. They won a Super Bowl, for crying out loud, with him. And obviously he's got several good years ahead of him. So I'm not totally surprised. But again, the offseason, they like to talk about different things, and they're throwing his name out there as being a new quarterback for whatever it was worth, the Jets or the Giants, or I don't know where they had him going, New Orleans, whatever. But
all 32 teams.
Yeah, there you go. Except one, not in Detroit.
Yeah.
31. Anyways, just kidding with your Pensman. But
no,
yeah,
I got you. It's basically, I got you.
He's a good guy. He's a good guy. He's probably going to be a lifer with the rest of his career with LA, the Rams.
Yeah, I could definitely see Stafford being in the pride of the Lions Ring of Honor when it's all said and done. He did great work in Detroit. I don't care about the sub 500 record that he had. He didn't have much talent around him when he expected them. But if he had Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell coaching, I don't think there's any doubt in my mind at this particular juncture that Stafford would have stayed in Detroit his entire career, but that'll be a hypothetical for another day. Some thoughts, J.B. Ellison. Yes, you're right. That Ralph, you had a feeling he was going to stay there and doing well for himself? No doubt. And I think loyalty mattered there. So good point, Ralph. So, J.B., your thoughts about Stafford remaining in L.A.?
Yeah, there really wasn't many options that fit that would work for him. He's, a veteran quarterback that won a Super Bowl, that has a lot of talent. He's not, top 3 or 5 at the moment, but he's not, bottom half, 16 through 32. So he's not going to go to New Orleans and rebuild there. He's getting older. Same thing with the Raiders. I mean, I get there's no state income tax, but the Raiders, they're a crap show. They're not anywhere close to winning. I couldn't see him going there. The Giants and Jets, same thing. I mean, the Jets maybe are a little bit ahead with the talent they have, but then the Jets, they'll find a way to do something. So where else was he going to go? And, the Rams came in and gave him the money he was looking for. Stafford's a class guy. I used to abuse him a lot before he won the Super Bowl. I thought the Rams made a dumb move getting rid of Goff. Like you said, it worked out for both franchises. The Rams got their Super Bowl. Detroit's one of the top teams right now. They could have a shot next year. I thought this year was going to be their year, but they'll run it back next year, and Goff will be there leading the way. So I wasn't too shocked to see that Stafford stayed, but
he wasn't going to the Giants. He was going to play outdoors, let alone for an organization that figured it out. That's a move backward. If we had Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes building it there, he would have remained in Detroit. But I'm happy for Matthew. I'm also happy, like you say, for Jared Goff. That was a win. Trade was a win-win for both sides. Penman.
Yeah.
Listen, you go wherever you're comfortable. Sean McVay, Sam. It's just how it is. Stafford and Sean McVay, they go good together. They have good chemistry. They know how to communicate to each other. They won a Super Bowl together. And if you're comfortable in the system, then just stay there. It's no surprise. He had him going to the Giants, had him going to the Saints, had him going to the Steelers, had him going to everywhere except for Detroit. Come on, don't believe ESPN. Come on. It's a good fit, and Dak Prescott, he signed back with the Cowboys, so it's no surprise there.
Yeah, you know what? I want to address something that JD Wyatt said, and let's put that back on the screen, Candy. Sam Darnold's going to re-sign with the Minnesota Vikings. He really is. He had a good system. Ultimately, when he finds out his value isn't as high as he is, he'll get paid handsomely out there. He's working with Kevin O'Connell, and that's a good situation for him. He can test what he wants, but his best success as a quarterback was in Minnesota. In a backup role, J.G. McCarthy is ready to take on the job. But let's face it, if you're Minnesota and you have a quarterback like Darnold ready and willing to take over under that system, I think he stays there. JD, that's just my thought. Candy, you can wrap up the topic. We have one more topic after this, parting shots. So go ahead, Can.
I think one of the things that nobody's really touched on also is Stafford's a family man. Stafford has 4 girls that he's trying to raise, and he already uplifted them from Detroit out to there. So does he want to uplift them again and move them, take them out of school, take them out of their norm? And does his wife really like it where he's at, or would she want to move? Part of his decision in the beginning, I think he was just testing the waters. He wanted to see how much money other people would throw at him. But in the end, I think he made a family decision where he's comfortable, where his family's comfortable in the system he knows. Does he want to start all over in a new system and learn and try and get along with new coaches and not only a new setting, but new players, new facility, new everything like that? That takes a toll, I would think, on a player as well. So I think he made the best decision for him and his family.
No question about it. Yeah, I know he didn't want to uproot this situation. And not only that, look at Aaron Rodgers. Here's a guy that I don't blame the situation with the Jets. That's a bad organization with Woody Johnson, but still, he ends up going there. Matthew Stafford's a lot smarter in this sense because he has won a Super Bowl, and he did it recently with a really good supporting cast. I'm not going to worry about what their front office moves are because they draft well now that they got draft choices again. But Candy, you make a great – you definitely get it right. Final topic of the night, and this one's going to come with a little bit of tape. JB Ellis and I had a lot of fun as well as Candy over the Super Bowl. We know we accomplished an awful lot, right, Mr. Ellis? I know you did, and I did. So here's a sample size of what we accomplished. And I wonder, will Darius Slay return to Detroit? Go ahead, run the video and let everybody go, and then we can go out there and comment on it. Everybody stand by. Darius Slay in the Motor City Madmouth in New Orleans.
Make a play on it. Darius.
I always like guys from Detroit, man.
Yeah.
I really do. I love Detroit originally. Hated to see it go.
Oh, man.
I'll get into that in a moment. But the reality is how is life treating you here in Philadelphia?
Life's been great, man, in Philly, man. I appreciate the fans. I appreciate this organization and everybody willing to take me in. I thank for the coaches here. I've been here 5 years, captain 3 of the years, so it's been a blessing, man. So I think to be a part of the organization.
Let me ask you a quick Lions question. How do you like the way that the culture has changed under Dan Campbell? And I'm going to give you something to laugh about. I just fired a podcast with 2 abrasive when you call Matt Patricia. You can laugh at it. He did, but it was okay. It's all about humor, okay? Yeah. And he's gone. But let's talk about Dan Campbell and the fact of the matter is that he changed the culture in Detroit.
He did a great job, man. It's one thing about I can see with coaches to make a successful coach. I guess you got to get guys to buy in, and I'm thankful that he made that team over there buy in. And when that team bought in, you see it, and they did it through the draft process. You know what I'm saying? So they got guys that's willing to learn, that's coming on the one win, and you know what I'm saying? So they do a great job. I like what Dan Campbell's doing over there, man. I know everybody was going laughing and giggling when he was my bike kneecaps, but I understood where he was coming from. Like he wanted to just sacrifice, for them a couple months to be the best he could be, and it's been paying off.
Now Zach Bond told me he wanted to see the Commanders in a rematch, but I'm talking to Darius Slade Jr. Okay, so in the back of your mind, did you want an opportunity to have a practice with Detroit Lions in the playoffs?
Oh man, I mean, see the thing is, I'm a big Lions fan as well. I'm a Lions and Eagles fan, so I wanted the Lions to win so we could play them, but then again I did want to spank them too. But you know what I'm saying? So it was good back and forth. I was willing to play anybody, but I low-key did want to play the Washington Commanders because I wanted to spank on them too.
Well, and lastly, nobody can tell what the future holds, and I'm not going to go there. But I'm sure in the back of your mind that Detroit's a special place, and it would probably in the back of your mind if it were for down the road, it's a situation to protect yourself.
I mean, if it ever presents itself, it could possibly happen, but if it don't, it don't. But I'm always going to be thankful for that organization because that was the first organization to believe in me. I gave them 7 great years. I appreciate every fan base around there, so that's always going to be my second home. So I'm always going to have a lot of ties there.
Well, nothing but the best for you, Darius Slay. I appreciate the time.
Appreciate you.
So, Slay, I grew up a Cowboys fan.
All right, so let me preface also what he said in this particular interview, and I've seen it recently. Darius Slade Jr. calls Detroit his second home. Now the question is, will it become his first home again? You talk about a classy individual. This guy is it. And Joe, as I've told you time and time again, privately as well as anything, one of the biggest things I've done in my Super Bowls is I love going to these media availabilities because I'm like a kid out of a candy store. If they're out there, I'm going to go out there and talk to them. Again, everybody has a different philosophy how you cover a big event. But the more you give me, Candy will tell you she was a recording machine. But this guy was a class act. And did you see the smile when I mentioned Matt Patricia? Oh, my gosh, this is unbelievable. And I don't allow anybody to talk to him about – in fact, I'll go a step further. Coach John Bonamego, who is one of ours, took a job at the University of Tennessee as an assistant special team coach, said he wouldn't work with this guy. And I won't mention the name. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. But you don't call a guy except by his regular name. But just to see the look on Slade's face when I mentioned that name was another story. George, you were there. You saw what happened. Do you think Slade's coming back?
Well, I got mixed feelings. I mean, I know he's had some great success since leaving Detroit, obviously with the Eagles. I really think that he could probably help this team out, probably for the veteran leadership as one item that I think in that secondary they could use. I know that, whether his ability still can be maintained that high as he ages, gets another year under his belt. However you want to look at it. I could go either way on that one, Scott. But the fact of the matter is, like you said in that interview to him with you, he has that heart still for Detroit. That's important because we all know that the culture and all of that stuff that changed, like you brought up in the interview, Scott, Darius, he smiled. He would like it. You could tell he would really like to come back. Hopefully that the Lions can structure the deal in such a way that it's affordable for them and for him. I would like to see, bottom line, I would like to see him.
let me go on record. I don't really, frankly, care what anybody says about how many coaches the Lions lost. So what? Every team is losing coaches as their assistants get plucked away to new jobs. The main thing is how you bounce back from those particular coaching decisions. Yep. And the Philadelphia Eagles definitely did that. And I had another comment on the other day about Nick Sirianni addressing it. Lost his coordinators 2 years later. What happened? Won the Super Bowl. With that said, I'm transitioning it over to JB Ellis. What are your thoughts? I predicted Slade's going back to Detroit. JB Ellis, I said my piece. What do you think?
I'm not really sure. I mean, Detroit would never hurt to have another quality cornerback. He's older. He could help lead the team as far as being a defensive leader. And as far as, coaches leaving after a winning season, that's the sign of success. That's what you want when you're a head coach. You want to win, and you want to see your assistants get hired as coaches elsewhere, because that means you're doing what you're supposed to do. If your assistants never leave you, there's something wrong. They haven't grown to become head coaches, and you're not doing what you need to do as a leader of the team. But I think he'd be a good fit in Detroit, but I don't know. I don't know where he ends up, but definitely a guy I'd love to have on my team.
That's good. Yeah, you're right, Joe. Dan Campbell loves it when his coaches go out there and get hired. Bring in a new one. It's called a culture is what it is. He's able to go out there and bring in these other guys. See what happened to Ben Johnson. See what happened to Aaron Glenn. They got hired. Want to be next? All we got to do is keep winning, keep doing what you got to do. They'll be hired. And Nick Sirianni, to me, is a perfect example that you just went out there and saw your offensive coordinator become a head coach, and then he brings in Vic Fangio. We all know what happened in New Orleans, the job he did. Miami wasn't good enough because he coached those guys too hard. When you go up I-95, he coached the Philadelphia Eagles, and guess what? Vic Fangio has that thing called a championship ring, and the Miami Dolphins are swimming in disbelief trying to figure it out, and they haven't been relevant since Jimmy Johnson left. I'm not going to get into that. That'll be another story when JB Ellis returns back to the States. There's some good footage on that. But all right, depends on your thoughts about Darius Slay. Is he going back to Motown?
I have two names to add besides Darius Slay. Well,
okay.
One other name. Darius Slay could go back to Detroit, but you could also get James Bradley too. James Bradley just got released too. So that's another name that's been thrown out there too, because they released those two players yesterday. So you guys could get James Bradley and Darius Slay too for leadership too. If you don't get one, you can get the other one too. So you got to think about that. Darius Slay would be an awesome corner. He still has some gas in the tank, not much, but he's got like quarter tank of gas left. But if he stays healthy enough, he can contribute to any team. And as ESPN will say, he's going to the Steelers, the Jets, this, and that. But I think he has a good relationship with Campbell, and I think he can go back to Detroit and be a leader, like George said. But just think of James Bradley too.
Okay, we'll do that. Candy, some thoughts.
Well, the one thing that we haven't talked about or discussed is the Lions actually have $52.69 million in cap space. So they've got quite a bit of room in there and I think someone like Darius Slay, while he has proven that he is a great cornerback, he might also take a hometown discount to go back, because I don't think he's done playing. He wants to continue playing more. So I think they might be able to strike a deal. Should I say, I would think Detroit would get him probably cheaper than a lot of other places. Now, you just never know. But I could see him going back to Detroit and being a leader, a veteran leader, because as I envision Dan Campbell's culture, that they would really like that veteran leadership on that team. And Darius, to me, just seems so enthusiastic, the way he talked, the way when we were there and talking to him, that he would be that great veteran leader at Detroit. But as a Packer fan in that same division, do I want him to go to Detroit? No.
Yeah, you'd love to see him go to Green Bay, but that's another story. Well, that was the whole feeling when I talked to him. I got the feeling that he would be.
I can see him taking a 15-year deal.
Yeah, right.
It's possible. It's possible.
Yeah, we'll leave. All right, well, I'm not going any further with that, but I am going to go into parting shots. And I know JB Ellis probably has one or two on his mind that he wants to get off his chest. Go ahead, Mr. Ellis. Start it out with parting shots, please.
So MLB taking a page out of the NFL playbook with these overseas games. And not only are they doing it, but they're actually doing it right. The games in Japan feature Shohei Ohtani and Yamamoto on the Dodgers, Suzuki and Imanaga on the Cubs. I mean, really just bringing the people in Japan what they want to see. They're stars from Japan that went overseas to play. They brought them home to play each other. What a home run. Where is MLB marketing the other 364 days a year? They figured this out, how to appease a country that doesn't even host their sport. Yet they can't figure out how to promote anything to do with MLB. They lost the ESPN rights. ESPN said, no, we're not giving you $550 million to carry Sunday Night Baseball. You're gone. What is wrong with the people who market the sport? I mean, do you see that on one hand that they're genius for this, but the other 99% of the time, they got their head in the sand.
Pretty good. Like it. George, parting shots.
Parting shot. Well, Hockey Town is worried again. The Red Wings have lost 5 out of their last 7 games after such a terrific streak under their new head coach. Steve Yzerman, you've got to make some moves. You cannot be afraid to get some more talent here to assure Red Wing fans that they can compete well for that final playoff spot or the second to last playoff spot. They got to make the playoffs this year, I do believe. And I say that only because, not as a fan, but I say it as a proud franchise, as Scott and I have talked many times about the original 6 and how important this franchise is to the NHL, as are all the original 6 franchises. But, you know, the 2 centers went down now, Rasmussen and Kopp. And Stevie Y, you just got to go out there. You got to have the guts to move somebody, and you bring some more bodies in here that could, you know, that Todd can have as healthy players. I mean, and the other thing is, they're not playing good. They're not playing good. The defense is still suspect. Goaltending is still a little suspect. So there's a call out there, Stevie Y, and I think the deadline is fast approaching for you to make some moves.
Okay, great. And by the way, George will join me on tomorrow's edition of Sports Exchange as we talk hockey. Yes. Also, Mike Santos is my new guy for hockey. He's done a really good job. I don't think he'll be on next week because he'll be out of town. But for all you folks that didn't see the first hockey show with Mike Santos, this is a must-watch. This guy here is a former assistant general manager of the New York Islanders, Nashville Predators, and the Florida Panthers. He's been the commissioner of a couple of professional hockey leagues as well. Mike Santos, when you talk about a guy who knows his hockey stuff, this guy is it. And he'll be joining myself and George Eichhorn tomorrow on the Sports Exchange on Thursday night. Okay, Benjamin, some parting shots.
And Mike Santos, he did a really good show, the first show. Just want to point that out. He is really IQ, 100% IQ is up there. But my party shots are 2. Pittsburgh Penguins have been playing average hockey since the 4 Nations have concluded. I thought that they were rested. I thought everything was good to go. I thought everything was good. I thought they were going to go up the roller coaster. Lately, I've been talking about roller coasters on my channel, but they've been sliding downward and been going downward. Tristan Jarry went to Hershey, PA, and gave up 5 goals. And what do the Pittsburgh Penguins do? They call him back up. They're like, hey, you gave up 5 goals. Why don't you just come back up? And it doesn't make sense to me. The Penguins are not a winning formula hockey, like George said about the Red Wings. They need to go and make moves like the Red Wings do. My second one is the Steelers. Make some moves. You got $60 million to play with. You got Christian Kirk available. You got Devontae Adams. You got all these players. Get some wide receiver. Help George Pickens out. That's my party shots.
Good ones. I like those, Penguin. All right, Kenzie, what's yours?
So I sense this hockey theme going on here tonight. I'm going to stick with it, believe it or not. And most times, let's face it, I'm not necessarily your hockey girl.
Tampa Bay Lightning.
But
She's learning though.
no. I'm going to reel it into Wisconsin women's hockey. Kudos to them. They are ranked number 1. Their regular season overall this year, they were 33-1-2. Their conference record was 25-1-2. They are playing. They have 9 Badgers were named to Team USA for IIHF World Women's Championship. They are playing in the they're in not the Frozen Four because they're in the qualifying. The semifinal game will be Friday. They play Minnesota Duluth. And then the championship game would be, I believe, later this weekend. But so kudos to them for having such a great regular season, and good luck to them in the next round in this playoffs.
All right, I'm going to stay in Wisconsin for a parting shot, but this one's interesting. It really, really is. Doug Gottlieb, ESPN. Remember him? Okay, the guy who used to talk a lot. May end up going back there if this keeps going on. 4-28 at the University of Wisconsin at Green Bay. He's in last place in the Horizon League. I repeat, 4 wins and 28 losses. Really? Seriously? Really? 21 game losing streak. So you think your 28 game losing streak with Pistons was bad? This is worse, especially over there. Called a Division II school, nobody you, and what happens? He lost to them. Doug, really? Seriously? Really? You want to be laughed back at ESPN? You want anybody ever want to take you seriously about basketball? Keep your mouth shut. Focus on doing the old chalkboard thing. Get the right players so that you can recover from this season that is a debacle. If anybody's value or stock dropped, it was Doug Gottlieb. I loved watching you on the air. If coaches don't make it, they end up back in broadcasting. But how can anybody end up in broadcasting a debacle like this at the University of Wisconsin in Green Bay? Everybody knows about Green Bay being the home of the Packers. You don't want everybody to be known as University of Wisconsin Green Bay in the news reason. Get it figured out, Doug. Otherwise, the University of Wisconsin at Green Bay will figure it out and show that thing called a pink slip sooner than you can snap your finger. All right, well, that does it for this edition of the Sports Exchange. But before we sign off tonight, Candy's going to give us one more station break. I know JB Ellis is going to be headed out to Tokyo. I hope you and Deb have a really good time out there. I certainly envy you for taking a trip like that. I'm looking forward to hearing your stories, and hopefully you'll write a story if you get a chance to do it out there to talk about your experience, because that would be human interest all the way. That'll be solely up to you, but I really envy you for taking the trip, and I'm proud of you, Mr. Ellis, in more ways than you'll ever imagine. All right, so Candy, one more station break. We go around the horn, we wrap it up, we get ready for tomorrow night's programming.
If you see the red subscribe button in that lower right-hand corner, click it, like us, share us, tell everybody about it. Tell about our programming. Monday nights, we talk baseball. Tuesday nights, we talk football. Wednesday and Thursday nights, you never know what we're talking about. But Thursday nights on Sports Exchange, we throw in a little NHL or hockey, I should say, although tonight we did too. But if you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. But the South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. And the foreword was written by none other than George Eichhorn. Awesome book, gentlemen. You both did an excellent job. If I do say so myself, 5-star review. You got it. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. Go get your copy today. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where all these fine gentlemen have written for us. I take a couple of pictures here and there. Go check out our website. And we also have a merchandise store that we have a link for. If you want to be on a show or have show ideas, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Or if you want to advertise or sponsor a show, call Scott, 954-304-4941. Okay, back to you, Scott.
I want to thank everybody in the chat room that participated. Ralph Williams, tonight, Josh, and the guys. They were really great tonight. We appreciated them being on. So, Joshua Dorr is somebody that I really value. He's a local guy that I met over at the chamber. And of course, it was good to see John Thiede as well. So good participation all around. We appreciate you showing up tonight and making solid contributions. JD Wyatt is a guy that you'll find here on Fire Up on Thursday nights. He's one of my young up-and-comers, Joe. He really, really, truly is, and he does a good job fitting in with the Fire Up crew. With that said, George, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you? Hey, Candy, you want to add something? Go ahead.
I wanted to add Tuesday night, 7:30. You can always watch me and my chicks on Chicks and Salsa or Three Chicks in a Pod. I know Megan and Jennifer are right now at the ACC tournament for the women's this weekend. So
Go
they're
Duke.
out there.
Go Duke.
Okay, well, you know what? All right, George, let everybody know how they get a hold of you. We'll turn it over to Pensman, then we'll
Yeah, you can
JB
find
Ellis
me.
for last.
Yep, and look for me at the South Florida Tribune under the Contributors Index, and happy to contribute articles and coverage here from Detroit. I write for a local paper called the Downtown Detroit Monitor. You can reach me at Yahoo at gicorn@yahoo.com. I'm also on LinkedIn under my name, and also you can reach me at Sanji Sports 99 on X, formerly Twitter. So looking forward to other great programs. And oh yeah, I wrote a book too. That's right. Thanks, Candy. Almost forgot. George Eichhorn's Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air, and some great guys: Bud Lynch, Al Kaline, Ernie Harwell, Paul Carey, Ray Lane. The list goes on and on and on. Great town for sports broadcasting. As Scott knows, he and I have been fortunate enough to meet almost all these guys that you'll see in the book. So there's a link to the book at the end of my column. Great being part of the show again. Thanks a lot for having me on.
And next Wednesday night, we welcome back Jacob Christner to the show. He'll be reunited with JB Ellis when he gets back. Jacob Christner has been a big part of our network. We're looking forward to having him on with his candid comments for sure. All right, Pensman, let everybody know how they get a hold of you.
You can find me right here, Wednesday and Thursday, South Florida channel. You can find me on the YouTube channel, Pensman Sports. And you can find me on X on Pensman Sports.
All right, I'm going to go to JB Ellis, but you know what? Let me tell you, of all the people I've met in this, there's a JB Ellis is a bigger heart than the state of Texas, and anybody ever been through the state of Texas all 20 hours from one end to another. JB Ellis's heart is unbelievable. I always appreciate the fact he looks out for me because of my medical situation, and he's the guy that I can turn to every time I need somebody to talk to. JB Ellis, you're one of a kind, and I'm so glad that you're on the Wednesday night show. With that said, go ahead and let everybody know how they get a hold of you and what's ahead for you as well.
Appreciate it. JB_ the program on X, sidelinesportsnet.com is the website, sidelinesportsnet.com. Candy designed it. I write there. Scott has some articles. George has some articles. All the Sideline Sports people have articles on there. James Tatum, Samir, Will, Joe. There are so many now. I'm glad to see everyone buying into writing, how important that is.
Yeah.
Sideline Sports every Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. Central, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Confidential, 8 p.m. Eastern every Wednesday. Headed to Tokyo next week to see opening day, March 19th, 5:10 a.m. Central for all you people back in the States. It'll be nighttime for me. I don't think I can wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to watch baseball. One thing MLB did wrong with that, but good for them.
Oh, it's great. I love having you on this show.
Give you another challenge.
Yeah, well, it's okay. He's been through a lot of them. He's covered Super Bowls. What are a couple of games in Tokyo compared to what this guy's been through? It doesn't make any difference. But yeah, it's a really good website. He has a good crop of writers for sure, and it's interesting. You ever get a chance to go to Sideline Sports website that Candy designed? He's tell you one thing about these guys. I read their stuff. I think it's pretty interesting. He's got some hidden gems in that writing group for sure. Candy, why don't you let everybody know before we sign off tonight what's ahead for tomorrow night's program, please?
I don't know what you're doing on Sports Exchange. Fire Up. We always have
interesting. We're talking hockey with Mike Santos, George Eichhorn.
Okay. Well, I don't know what kind of what you're talking on. I honestly, I do not know the topics yet for Fire Up. That's always day of, but it'll be interesting. So I'm sure we'll talk some of these free agents that are out there for NFL, and we'll definitely talk some MLB since, the boys of summer are back.
Sounds like a plan. All right. Well, that does it for this edition of the Sports Exchange. So on behalf of Pensman Sports, Candy Ebling, J.B. Ellis and George Icorn. My name is Scott Morgan, around the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the Sports Exchange. Once again, rest in peace to Gene Hackman and Al Trautwig. You're definitely going to be missed, but you'll definitely not be forgotten. Thankfully, there's Google out there, so anybody that's looking for your work and body of work, there'll be plenty of opportunities to see it. So rest in peace to both of you legends, and we were just fortunate we had an opportunity to address both of those individuals tonight on this edition of Sports Exchange with the crew that I have tonight. God bless everybody, and we will see you tomorrow night on the network. Good night, everybody.